That it will be June 4th. Doors open at 1. We'll begin at 1:30 to 4:30
Okay.
here at City Hall.
And that's a Sunday?
That is a Sunday.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Great.
thought with the Forest Moon Festival it'd be great to not interrupt that and have it actually on a different day.
Right. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, because their weekends tend to have some events on them, especially now that the sunshine's coming out. People are getting out
Sorta.
there. Sort of. Yeah, we're looking outside.
I think that we really wanted to meet
Engagement.
like the
Yeah.
maximum audience as possible and really get people engaged. And it's hard to have folks come together if everyone's still getting off work and they've already gone through a full day. And
Right.
Yeah.
this provides more opportunity for folks to come and learn, folks to come and advocate, and really kind of get engaged in the community.
The goal for the town hall is to engage our community. There's a lot of folks out there that are having a really hard time with, some of the things in our city, and they don't really have an opportunity to share that anywhere. And so we're hopeful that this is an opportunity not only to educate people on some of the issues that are happening in our city, but also to engage them in a way that they can get their questions answered, that they can, we can work with them. If they want to be a part of the solution, we're happy to do that as well. But just to really have a forum where people are safe and can talk about things that are very difficult. And we had a good time last time with Mr. Rosen here, so I'm going to turn it over to him.
Yeah. So the idea really came to me when I came on board with the city, and some of the first town halls that I kind of watched, and then the first one that I went to, it was really striking that during the public comment section, there were a lot of folks who had a lot of passionate frustration. They were very engaged. They were very kind of fired up and wanting to advocate for the city to get better. And everyone has different ideas, but what struck me was that when I was watching this during the public comment section, the city council and the mayor are not able to respond, and so it seemed like there wasn't a way to resolve or discuss or like actually create a discourse around some of these issues if the rules say like you can't respond, we can't have a discussion. And so the idea that kind of came up was, well, what if we created a forum that would allow for that to occur, so that we could have experts, we could have government officials, we could have a public discourse, and what a better way to do that than to hold it in council's chambers, where not only is it convenient because we have the recording equipment, we can do all those things and it's already kind of established for that, but it can be part of that civic discussion, and we can really help get people involved in their community, which is more beneficial for the community having more ideas, but also helpful for them to feel heard.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think, part of it too is that just coming on as mayor, one of the most important things in our city to me, of course, is our community and our people. And, I see every day, people on the street that are really suffering with mental health issues or other health issues. And so, and part of that for me is like watching some of the stuff that I see on social media where they're just exploiting that crisis. And I think, as humans, we fear what we don't understand. And so this is an opportunity for us to come together and really have these difficult conversations with someone that can actually mediate things in a way that everybody feels safe and can feel heard. It's important.
For example, at a chambers meeting, a city council meeting, there's no opportunity really for a Q&A, right? There's feedback received from the community to the city council members and city manager, for example, but there's no ability structurally, there's no opportunity for an engaged conversation, right?
Right. It's not a conversation in a council meeting. And that's what's nice about this, is that it absolutely gives people an opportunity to come and to be heard and to, it was great. Our last town hall, our first town hall, was really great in that people really felt like they could come and share their personal experience, and just have a conversation about it. And what a gift to the community. And there'll be more coming forward. We'll be doing town halls, quarterly. And then I'm working on mental health initiatives, so we're working on finding other ways to engage people as well. So really be watching for good things happening.
Absolutely. And creating a dedicated forum for this discussion is important as well. even if there was the opportunity to engage in a Q&A during council meetings, there's so many other pieces that have to be accomplished in that meeting. That meeting's not specifically for having a rich discussion, and so it would be difficult to even incorporate that. So by just pulling that piece of it out and separating it to a whole separate meeting, we can actually create a space for that dialogue to happen and take our time with it. I mean, taking 3 hours to have a discussion and, to be able to pull in experts from the community who have different viewpoints and work from different parts of the field is really special, and to be able to dedicate the time to that is important.
Yeah.
And it is important to have those experts like telling us and explaining some of the things that they look at and see every day, because I think there's a lot of misinformation about what's going on, or what's not being done, or what's being done wrong, or those kinds of things. And so it's really good to have these people that are actually experts in our region speaking on these things.
Or sometimes even that the frustrations that the public are having are some of the same frustrations that the professionals are having, and that sometimes that they're a them versus the professionals dynamic emerges, and sometimes it can be really humanizing to learn that a lot of the professionals feel incredibly similar and have very similar frustrations to some of the shortcomings in the system, and that we all need to come together as a community to remedy that. So the topic for this time, we're calling it Dynamics of the Unhoused. And we specifically went with the term dynamics because homelessness it's not just one it's a category, but it encompasses so many different pieces. Individuals who are experiencing homelessness have medical issues, they have mental health issues, they have substance use issues, they have difficulties getting social services, they have numerous barriers and limitations that don't just span in a single category. So like our last topic was Mental Health 101, and that's very kind of narrow, at least compared to homelessness, which is something that includes so many different pieces in the social services field. And so to really account for that, we've actually expanded from 4 to 5 panelists this time around. We have currently slated Dr. Goldberg, who is the medical director for Providence St. Joseph's Hospital, as well as Redwood Memorial, specifically for the ERs. And he's a fierce advocate in the community for creating a better system of care, and especially in the emergency realm, and still takes on shifts at St. Joe's and works a lot with folks who are homeless, because when you don't have transportation, when you don't have a house over your, a roof over your head, you don't necessarily have primary care, and so people end up using the ER as their primary care. And then we also have Thomas Steenblock, who's the director for mobile medical with Open Door. Again, kind of touching on that physical health piece. And then we have Thomas Nash, who is, Tom Nash, who's a licensed clinical social worker with DHHS Behavioral Health, who has extensive experience working with individuals who are homeless, as well as working in crisis. And then we have Commander LaFrance. Initially, we're trying to get Chief Jarvis, because he's engaged in a lot of projects at his previous department in San Diego around that, and has a lot of experience, but unfortunately there's a conflict, and Commander LaFrance has graciously agreed to kind of step in, and has a wealth of experience developing CSET and really championing this in our local area. And then I'm forgetting the fifth
Kristen
one. That's
Freeman,
right.
who is the director for the women's side of the rescue mission.
Yeah.
So yes, so she's
Great.
been there a while and has a lot of great knowledge as well.
Okay. That's right.
This is a community issue, and it needs community solutions. And the more people that are willing to pick up an oar, the more people that are willing to get involved, the more people that are willing to understand, and be that person that, like, a healthy community lifts each other up. And so to get involved in that, we need everybody. So I'm hopeful that a lot of people will show up, regardless of what their work or what they do.
Yeah, and for the panel, we really wanted to make sure that there were folks who could represent the different parts of the field. And we could expand the panel to 10 to 15 people very easily, especially if we're going to start kind of getting folks who have more of a personalized experience in this topic. And at the same time, I think the current panel does have some representation in that lived experience category, and everyone comes from a different background, and I think that the panelist group that we have right now is very dynamic, and we cover that physical health component, we cover the mental health component, there's a substance use component there, and the idea being that then we can invite some of these other agencies to come in and have this discussion, while we then have the professionals who can help in facilitating that discussion along with the public.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, and we will be doing town halls for the next 4 years quarterly, so
Ah.
there may come a time where that could happen.
We're not going to solve homelessness this town hall, so we will
No.
definitely probably have another
Yeah.
town hall on this topic, and that would be
Yeah.
another time to kind of continue this conversation.
Yes.
And in fact, is one of the reasons why we chose to have this one in the middle of summer, where oftentimes in winter and fall when the weather is bad and there's a lot more discussion around homelessness and what are we doing about it, because
Right.
people are suffering.
Top of
And
mind.
Yeah.
exactly, and then oftentimes the conversation kind of dies down during the summer, and the weather's nice, folks aren't thinking about it, it's not as big of an issue, and what we're really hoping is that we can kind of continue this conversation as we've been doing internally within the city, really trying to we had such an awful winter last winter, we want to be more prepared for when things get bad next winter. And so internally we've been trying to carry on this conversation. We're really hoping to engage the community in doing that with us, because we can't put this one up on the shelf. This the topic of homelessness can't just be set aside because the weather's nice. We need to continue this conversation and continue getting the dialogue moving.
So explain what your role is for care.
So
right?
starting last August, I came on board with the city to really kind of kick off an alternative response team. So having mental health professionals that can go into the field, independent of EPD or in collaboration with EPD, to provide mental health crisis services and kind of case management and follow-up, and really help get out into the community where a lot of the issues are happening, and support folks where they stand. Yeah, I think, really talking about the interplay of the barriers that are put in between a person who is homeless and accessing basic health care. And basic health care includes mental health, right? I mean, for individuals who are employed, I mean, for if I speak about myself, if I want to go see a therapist, I can do that, right? I'm working, my work provides insurance, I'm able to go and do that. That is difficult for folks who have maybe not permanent employment and they don't have that insurance component, and it gets even more difficult when you don't have any employment and you don't have any income and you don't have a roof over your head and you don't have a vehicle.
There you go.
And so when that happens, all of a sudden it's near impossible for folks to get outpatient mental health treatment on a regular basis. And the same goes for physical health, right? Going and getting a checkup, going and getting your yearly check-in with your doctor to get labs and make sure that there aren't things coming up that need to be addressed sooner than later. And substance use treatment, I mean, we don't have enough substance use treatment facilities nationwide, and if you're on a wait list and you don't have a phone and you don't have a place that you're staying every night where someone can let you know that your spot at detox or rehab has popped up, it's just makes it so difficult to get access. And so we really wanted to focus on how individuals who are without housing and don't have a place to live, don't have that dedicated space, end up getting barriers put between just basic health care, and really highlighting that how that has to change, how homelessness affects health, but also how health affects homelessness, because it goes the other way in that folks who are homeless tend to have more substance use issues, tend to have more mental health issues, and tend to have more physical health issues that possibly related to them losing a job, losing housing, domestic violence, right? Trauma, that's a huge one. And so it's this interplay that goes back and forth where you can almost get into a chicken or the egg conversation, but
Right.
The fact is that mental health, all these health issues, contribute to homelessness, and then homelessness exacerbates all of these health issues.
Right.
And so that's really like the core of what we want. I know there's a long explanation, but that's the core of what we wanted to really kind of touch on.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really nuanced and complicated issue, so I kind of expected it. A big answer. Yeah.
The challenge with doing mental health outreach and doing any sort of field work is really the ability to go upstream and downstream all at the same time, right? So you have to be able to design programs that can both accommodate going to a crisis on one hand, but then when crises aren't happening, because they don't happen all the time, there are down periods, how do you then go and do preventative work? How do you engage people early on so that things don't escalate to a crisis? A lot of that requires a tremendous amount of networking, really working with community partners to come together to identify individuals who are at risk. And then it also just requires being out in the field. And so, with CARE soft launching mid-January, one of the core things our case managers are doing right now is just getting field time, just being out present at free meal, out in the community, really working with folks, because it's pretty amazing what can happen when just a professional is there present, and maybe they're not even engaging that person. Maybe, like with Uplift, our outreach workers are, often help with free meal and their delivery of services every day. And it's amazing how many folks will just come up and talk with them because they're accessible, right? We're by being out in the community, you eliminate that barrier to services, which is accessibility.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, people don't need to have a car. They don't need to have a phone. They actually have a professional in front of them who they can go and talk to. And so doing that for mental health is really important, right? If someone comes up to Tyler or Shamika, our case managers, and says, hey, I'd like to get tied into behavioral health services, we can just go do that. We can make that contact immediately, and then things don't need to get to this point where that person is reaching a crisis, EPD is coming out, maybe we're having to de-escalate them, and maybe they end up on a hold in the hospital. And we can just kind of bypass that whole traumatic situation and really just kind of go to getting treatment, which is what folks need.
Yeah.
Meeting with people where they're at is so important. It's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just, literally meeting people where they're at. And I feel like when you say going out into the field, you may be talking about a street corner, but you may also be very actually talking about a field.
Absolutely. Yeah, green belts.
Green belts, yes.
Our case managers are back there regularly. Collaborating with Eureka Police Department's CSET team, right, the Community Safety Engagement team, and their Waterfront Ranger in particular, who their job is to be out there and doing that. So they do a lot of outreach themselves, and EPD ends up playing social worker a lot. And our one of my goals with our team, especially as we begin to staff up, is to create dedicated trail days where we have a member of CARE and a member of CSET out on the trail together doing that outreach, because that will provide a just kind of better quality of care all around.
Like with consistency?
With consistency. So like every week, like it's Trail Thursdays. We don't have like a day set up, right? But that's what we're hoping it'll look like, where there's just a dedicated day that we have, one of our case managers out doing mental health and social service outreach on the trail every day, in getting into some of the encampments, getting into some of the green belts where folks may not typically stroll because that's way out of the way, and that maybe that's their intent. Maybe they want to be out of the way, but that doesn't mean that they don't need services still.
Right. So back to the services, when you're, say, I'm picturing you guys out in the field, case managers out there, and they come across somebody who's clearly having a hard time, both mentally, maybe with addiction, maybe not. Do they have to articulate a certain statement, or is it offered to them, hey, would you like behavioral health services? Like, how does that conversation go? And I would assume that they have to ask for it.
To a degree, we kind of do. It's not like a formal assessment, but I call it a needs assessment. Essentially, what does that person need right now? Do they need housing resources? Do they need access to food? Do they need CalFresh? Do they need Medi-Cal? Do they need GR? Do we need, maybe they lost their ID. We need to help them get their ID so that then they can go and get their Social Security reactivated.
Right.
that's kind of more of the social services end of it. But then if they, are also having behavioral health symptoms, or they say, hey, I want to get back on my meds, then we can connect them to behavioral health. If they want substance use services, then maybe we're looking at, calling Beacon and doing a Beacon substance use assessment and getting them into Waterfront or Humboldt Recovery Center. And so, really not, trying not to wait for them to bring up exactly like the services they're looking for, because at the end of the day, there are so many services out there. It can be difficult for service professionals to know what services provide what, and what agencies provide what services. And so, expecting the client to be the expert on that just it's not feasible. And so, the service that our case managers really provide when they're doing that kind of outreach is going through kind of, what are you needing help with, and then translating that into, well, these are the places that you could get assistance with that, and then helping them connect them there, not just, giving a handout and hoping that they show up, but actually trying to do that warm handoff and get them to the agency.
I think another important piece of this whole, meeting people where they're at is making those really important connections with people, because, you may go out 6 times, 16 times, 36 times and talk to an individual and they're just not ready, but you build those relationships with folks, so when they are ready, there is that bit of trust, even if it's a small bit of trust. And so I really appreciate that about our teams, is that they really are out there and engaged, and it's not only about, well, we'll take you to the doctor. It's like, how's your day? Looking them in the face, understanding that everybody has value, and that it's so important that these, that we all feel that point of value, and making those relationships. That's a basic need, is connection with others. And so having that and not being looked down upon
Absolutely.
Is 100% wonderful for folks, I think.
Yeah, and when that trust has been built, when then they are ready to access services, they'll let us know. CSET under the police department has done a heroic job of that. There have been folks who, they've been contacting 100 calls for service a year, and eventually they are ready, and they'll call up Commander LaFrance, hey, I'm ready to go to rehab, and then it's like, okay, cool, let's work on that, and they'll get that moving. Or I'm ready to go back to some other state where my family is, and it's like, cool, all right, let's start working on that. Building that connection with the community in general and being present is just super, super important.
Like
well, what I would say is, community problems need community solutions, and these town halls are an opportunity for you to come and be engaged in a safe way and to learn about what's happening. And we'd love to have all of you there to participate and to be heard, so we can figure this stuff out together.
So come down and join us Sunday, June 4th from 1 to 4:30, City Hall.
We'll have tacos, and NAMI will be tabling. So we look forward to seeing you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.